The roar of engines echoed through the air like thunder as the drivers revved up for another adrenaline-fueled race at the iconic Talladega Superspeedway, a stadium holding its breath, bristling with palpable excitement and anticipation. The smell of burning rubber and gasoline lingered in the air, a testament to the many races that had happened before. Sarah Collins, an emerging star in the world of NASCAR, was among them. Her talent and sheer determination were matched only by her skill behind the wheel. Her spirit was fearless, her focus unwavering, but in the pit of her stomach, a sense of unease built up, cold and persistent. She glanced around, taking in the scene of high-energy chaos before slipping into her sleek, shining car. Sitting in her vehicle, a marvel of modern engineering, Sarah could feel her heart rate increase as she gripped the steering wheel. Her palms were sweaty, but her gaze was steely as she prepared herself for the race ahead. The track lay before her was daunting, the course notorious for its blistering speeds and high stakes. Talladega was a beast, one that she was ready to conquer. The superspeedway was feared as much as it was revered. It was a place where legends were born and met their untimely ends. The casualties were numerous, their stories etched into the very asphalt of the track. The echoes of their battles with the beast that was Talladega sent shivers down the spines of those who dared challenge its daunting curves. Legends of drivers meeting untimely ends on the unforgiving asphalt lingered in the minds of all who dared to challenge its daunting curves. The moment the race began, Sarah firmly dismissed her anxieties, compelling herself to concentrate on the immediate challenge before her. However, as her car accelerated down the long, unobstructed straightaway, a creeping sensation of unease began to gnaw at the periphery of her consciousness, an inborn primal instinct that was insistent, incessant, foreboding of an imminent peril. This sensation didn't just evoke fear, it seemed to echo through time from her distant ancestors, as if their collective experiences of danger were whispering warnings in her ear. The harbinger of this forewarned danger arrived in the form of an abrupt, unexpected gust of wind, a seemingly benign natural occurrence that nevertheless carried with it an inexplicable whisper of unseen supernatural forces at play. The sudden onslaught of this gust seemed to signal the commencement of an invisible, its unexpected arrival, betraying a brewing chaos that mocked the formerly serene ambience of the racetrack. Sarah's heart began to pound with an intensity that mirrored the escalating tension around her, each heartbeat echoing loudly in her ears. The relentless wind battered against her car, jarring it off its steady course. The wind seemed to have taken on the persona of an enraged tempest, throwing all of its might against Sarah's vehicle with such force that maintaining control seemed an impossible feat. Sarah, however, was no stranger to challenges. She gripped the steer tighter and maneuvered with precision, battling the invisible adversary with every ounce of skill she possessed. The determination to confront the adversity was etched on her face. Her grip tightened and she gritted her teeth, resolved to maintain the upper hand in this sudden duel with the elements. And then, as abruptly as it had materialized, the wind receded, its chaotic energy dissipating as quickly as it had surged. The eerie calm returned, leaving Sarah shaken but undeterred, a testament to her tenacity, and a silent promise of the battle she was still prepared to face. As she entered the first turn, a deafening crash reverberated through the air, sending shockwaves rippling through the fleet of vehicles. The thunderous noise was so forceful that it seemed to tremble the very earth beneath their speeding tires. It was a sound that every racer feared, a sound that sent chills down Sarah's spine, even as she continued to maneuver her vehicle around the arduous bends. Her heart pounded in rhythm with the frantic beating of her adrenaline-fueled pulse. Her mind, normally focused solely on the road ahead, was pulled backwards by the catastrophic noise. With a feeling of dread, she cast a quick, hesitant glance in her rearview mirror, and the sight that met her eyes caused her blood to run cold. The scene behind her looked as if it was pulled straight from a dystopian nightmare. Smoke billowed out, painting the sky a grim gray, and her worst fears were realized. Twisted metal and fragments of what once were high-speed racing machines littered the track in a grotesque display of devastation. The wreckage was catastrophic, a tangled mess of mangled cars and shattered dreams. Flames raged, reaching greedily towards the sky, consuming everything in their path. In the midst of the chaos, a lone figure emerged, his car surrounded by a menacing inferno. The heat was intense, casting an otherworldly glow around him as he fought to escape terrifying blaze. The sight was eerie and haunting, a stark reminder of the dangerous game they all played. Haunting screams of fellow racers echoed in Sarah's ears, their cries of fear and pain amplifying the dread that already settled heavily in her heart. The scene was one of chilling horror, and as she watched, her heart turned heavy with the weight of tragedy. But even as the rescue crews rushed to the scene, there was something unnerving about the crash, something oddly disconcerting that sent shivers down Sarah's spine. The moment was permeated with a unique sense of foreboding, an eerie sensation that was almost tangible in its intensity. It was as if the track itself had turned into a ravenous monster, a demonic entity that had suddenly sprung to life, craving for the crimson liquid of life, basking in the disorder it had so callously. It was a strange, surreal feeling, like she was trapped within the dark confines of a twisted, malevolent nightmare, the kind that leaves you awake, panting in cold sweat, long after its conclusion. The air seemed to grow heavy with a sense of doom, the echoes of the impact still reverberating in the quiet corners of the racetrack. Her heart pounded against her chest with a rhythm that matched the thunderous roar of her engine, a dreadful drumbeat that echoed the silent screams of her apprehension. The race carried on, oblivious to the grim spectacle that had unfolded. Sarah, however, found herself unable to dispel the sinking feeling that was clawing at the walls of her sanity. It felt as if the track was cursed, as if some unseen malignant force was at work, its ghostly fingers pulling the strings, directing the macabre of metal and rubber. The thought was as unsettling as it was terrifying, a sinister whisper that curled around the edges of her mind, refusing to be silenced. Each turn of the track seemed darker, more ominous than the last, the twists and curves taking on a life of their own. With each new corner she rounded, her grip on the steering wheel tightened. Her knuckles turned white, her pulse quickened, her senses went into overdrive, alert to the dangers that lurked just beyond the asphalt. But no amount of skill or determination could protect her from the horrors that awaited her on the track. The sun was sinking low on the horizon, its dying light casting long shadows across the asphalt. Sarah had always loved the track, loved the rush of adrenaline that came with each sharp turn, each narrow escape. But today, the race had taken a grim turn. She was on the last lap, heart pounding in sync with the roar of her engine, when everything changed. Out of the blue, a thunderous explosion tore through the peaceful evening, the force of it enough to rock her on her wheels. A shiver of terror shot down her spine as a cloud of smoke and debris filled the air, obscuring her vision. Her car veered wildly off the track, the steering wheel slipping from her grip as she fought to regain control, but it was already too late. Out of the smoke, the shadowy figure of an oncoming car emerged. Time seemed to slow down. Sarah braced herself for the inevitable. Her hands gripped the wheel tighter, her knuckles turning white as the two cars raced towards each other. And then, before she had time to blink, they collided. The impact was colossal, shaking the earth beneath them and sending ripples of shockwaves through the atmosphere. The world tilted on its axis as Sarah's car flipped, the sickening crunch of metal on asphalt echoing in her ears. Her body was jolted violently, the seatbelt cutting into her flesh as she was tossed around like a rag doll. The world spun around her, a chaos of noise and color, blurring together into a dizzying whirlwind. Her vision dimmed, her consciousness fading in and out as she tumbled across the asphalt, her body battered and broken as she tumbled across the asphalt. And then, as suddenly as it had begun, the tumultuous uproar subsided, irreversibly marking a stark contrast from the violent clash that had just occurred. It left Sarah, our protagonist, lying in a crumpled and broken heap on the cold, unforgiving track. Her body, once full of fierce determination and the promise of victory, now portrayed an image of defeat and despair. Her once rhythmic breaths now came in shaky gasps, each exhale a testament to the stark reality of her situation. The track, which had just witnessed the fierce competition, full of sweat and ambition, was now silent and indifferent. It bore the weight of her collapsed dreams, her aspirations scattered around her like shards of glass. The once cheering crowd was now reduced to a hushed murmur, their eyes wide in disbelief as they mirrored the shock painted vividly across Sarah's face. As she lay there, a strange sense of calm began to wash over her. The stark pain seemed to recede, replaced by a chilling numbness that crept up her limbs, making her shiver. She could feel the coarse texture of the gravel beneath her, the grit digging into her skin, grounding her to the reality of her situation. Her body screamed in protest as she attempted to move, her muscles straining against the agony. But amidst the pain, she also felt a startling clarity, A resolve began to build within her. She refused to let this be her end. She was down, but not defeated. As she struggled to regain her senses, she felt a cold chill